Ladies and gentlemen, interest rates again went up yesterday. What does it mean to buyers, sellers, owners of property, tenants in property? What does it mean to the housing market? Stay tuned. We're going to talk about it today.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Napa,
Good morning. Good morning.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Interest rates went up and you don't care.
Nah. That's the end of morning minutes. That's everything we need to talk about today. Done. See you guys.
Yep. Now, look, it's interesting, but before we get into it and talk about the impact that it's making across our business and for rental sales and all that stuff, can we talk about your Melbourne Cup?
Oh yeah. It was good. I put on a massive $17, 17, and
Yep.
didn't get any of it back.
And I won $10.
Did you win $10?
Yeah,
Oh.
because I didn't bet $10.
There you go, the biggest winner of the day.
Yep.
No, nothing good. Well, like, it was a beautiful day, but
Oh,
I'm not gorgeous. But yeah, I think hopefully, I don't know, there might be people a bit crook watching this. That's probably how a lot of people are today after Melbourne Cup. But
I think so. Look, it's an awesome outdoor activity, and everyone's out in the sun, having a beverage, and eating a little bit of food. The good people were back at work by four. Didn't go and didn't do anything. The better behaved, the people that were slightly less behaved than that were back at 3 or 4 o'clock, and then the naughty people stayed out till late. Who were you?
So I ended up home at 5 o'clock. I made my dinner. I made lunch for today. Prepped my whole day to I'm feeling fresh as a daisy. So
Yeah,
I don't know what I'd.
yeah.
How about you, Mark?
I'm in a similar boat. I had the office call with an appraisal, so I went out to do an appraisal at 6 o'clock
Oh
and
God.
presented at 7 and back home. So it was normal day, but I had a naughty Saturday night, so fine. Now listen, let's get into this.
Yes.
What do you reckon? These interest rates?
Yeah. Well, see, I love Luke's comment here saying rent. So I am a renter, well, a tenant, and we should care about interest rates because rents will go up. That is a really good point, actually. But see, that's very funny. No, but I locked in a 12-month lease quite recently, so I'm very happy with where my current situation, at least. I think that's because I'm not really looking into the future that much. I'm just enjoying the rent I'm paying now. But I think that's a really good point that renters should think about interest rates in the long run. But I think that's when you're considering like a short lease or a longer lease, that's definitely something I would consider in the background. But in general, interest rates don't really concern me too much. But I'd love to hear why they should.
So yeah, I guess Luke's saying it indirectly affects renters. It is. I do admit landlords have come back for a bit of a cash grab. Landlords are ringing us now consistently saying, look, my costs have escalated. It's hitting our pocket. It's hitting our bottom line. We need to make it up in some way. And if the rent hasn't gone up regularly and isn't at market, which is moving up quickly, they're saying, look, we want that rent up. So we are experiencing record high rental increases on properties. So it sort of does affect them. But I guess what you're saying is that lease, if you can lock in a 1 or 2 year lease as a tenant, that's great advice that you can give to the renting community out there to say, look, lock it and lock it long. Lock it and lock it long. As well. And now another thing with this is, and I do have to say about interest rates is, I like people. It doesn't matter where the rate is as much. What I've noticed over the years, it doesn't matter where the rate is, but it's whether it's going up or down. It's the turbulence or it's the whitewash that it actually creates. People
Yeah.
don't care as much how deep or shallow the ocean is, but it's that whitewash that it creates. It really disturbs people. And bear in mind, like, when it's been an interest rate environment, when it's going down, shit has hit the fan. Shit has hit the fan. We've had a GFC. Shit, the rates better go down. Employment's going crazy. Move the rates down. Inflation's too low. Like, it's, move the rates down. There's, people aren't happy when the rates go down because of why they go down. It's a shitstorm. So they're not happy when the rates go down because there's so much volatility in business. But then on the opposite, when there's stability with employment, stability and inflation's going up, and then the interest rates have to go up, then people aren't happy either. And it's like, hang on, the rates go down, you're unhappy because the economy is rooted, and rates go up, and you're unhappy because rates are going up, and the economy is good. You're just never happy.
Well, that's, as someone with like a media background, I think a lot of that is what we see in the media as well. It's like you're never going to hear, oh, interest rates are fine right now. Like, oh, yeah, things are good. Things like it's always going to be one or the other because that's what generates clicks. So if you look on any news story, there's always going to be a winner and a loser, or a good and a bad. There's never the gray area in the middle. There's never that discussion because they want to get people thinking a certain way because that's what generates clicks on these news sites. So that's one way I look at it as well. Whenever there's news about interest rates, you got to take it with a grain of salt and really just read it from all angles, I guess.
If it bleeds, it reads.
If it bleeds, it reads.
If it bleeds, it reads. So it's got to be like, whoa. And then it's going to get people's attention to read it.
Yeah.
Now, so we're on interest rates, guys. Today we're talking about tenants with long leases. Someone like NatPat, don't care, whatever. Doesn't really affect it as much. Also, I think what we have to say is, with these rates going up yesterday, which they did if everyone's been living under a rock, the prices of properties went up dramatically. So we had, the average, a unit for about $650,000 go up to about $1 million. Consequently, that's probably come down to about 900. But at the end of the day, people have made a little bit of money there. People have made a bit of money there because the property prices went up. But no one looks at that long picture of 3 years. They just look at what happened to them yesterday. You've got inflation going crazy, so you're finding that people out there are charging a little bit more than they should or could, with materials, with labour, with that sort of stuff.
Everything.
So there's a bit of a win. Everything? There's a bit of a
Yeah.
like. That's not a loss. That's a win in on most parts. So I think it's a little bit of give and take there. And one thing I do have to say about interest rates, Ali's saying too critical calling it. Luke saying not many stable heads around. John Connor, yeah, good comment. They are still low. Bottom line,
Yeah.
they are still low. A lot of comments this morning, a lot of viewers. But most have seen interest rates high. Yeah, that's true. On what people are seeing, it's an interesting take. What else do you have to say about interest rates, Nat Pat?
Oh gosh, I don't think I know much else about interest rates. Well, I think that's it's
I
good
think
what
that's
you're
most
saying about.
people.
I know, well,
I think that's
the
most
thing.
people.
I think if you talk to anyone a lot of people my age, I won't say everyone. I think I think the the big focus for a lot of my generation right now is the cost of living. I've got lots of friends who are looking to move out of home, but then trying to like balance that with, like, as Luke said, the rise in cost of rent. And then when we had, you couldn't buy a lettuce. It was like $15 to buy a head of lettuce. I think that goes back into what we were saying about inflation and a lot of different like trends, like after COVID, and then people have been hit by the floods, which is now affecting our like a bunch of different industries, but particularly food and just basic like stuff that you need to live. I think interest rates, it does fall into those things, but I think inflation is a big factor in this discussion as well.
But then you've got, backing you up, work's easy. You can go out and find a job anywhere for more money in an environment where there's, unemployment at a record low, and they've shipped off 1 million people overseas through COVID. So there's a labour shortage. It's interesting. But I think if you look at how educated most of the Australian people are on talking about this, the education comes from media. And they're not carrying a degree in economics. The education comes from media, and most of us that just know that, so we are really, really governed by, and most of us are like, it's I don't really like, it's not something I'm going to study or go and get a degree on. I sort of don't really, I just got to pay. If that rate just goes up, I just got to pay it, and maybe spend less.
Exactly. I think media, I'm biased because I love talking about the media and how they represent different issues, but I think that's one thing that I would probably put in this discussion today as a takeaway, is just reading anything about interest rates. I think anything you read in the media, especially about property, you have to just put in the correct context, because like even talking about unemployment rates and I think it's just whenever you're reading something, just think about it a bit more critically is what I would say.
Well, I remember I was doing in high school, I rung a university professor, and I have no idea why I rung this university professor on the topic that I rung them on. And I remember this professor saying to me, I asked a question like, where can I get the most unbiased media? And then the university professor said to me, that's impossible. There is no such a thing. So I think when we are talking about interest rates, looking at interest rates, assessing interest rates, educating ourselves on interest rates, not caring about interest rates, caring about interest rates, we've got to consider where we're getting our news from, because it's always bias. And even if you regard this as some form of news or education today, it is bias. It is slanted by a bunch of real estate agents.
Yeah. Sure. Oh, revealing all the secrets, Mark.
It's bias. But I think you want to choose the bias that's good for you,
that reflects you and your current situation. So, and that's one thing. If you're going to read, well, even realestate.com, if you read anything on that, it's going to be on the Daily Telegraph or like a lot of different publications there, because they are owned by the same people. So that's one thing. So they share a common view, and I think that's why people enjoy our news, because they're property people and they're biased towards property. Yeah, exactly. So this is sort of gone down a different discussion, but
but it goes back to the reason why we chose to talk about it is because it is on the back of interest rates, and the information that you are getting on interest rates is always going to be biased. For you, not for you, good, bad, ugly, whatever. So just watch that information, and like what Luke said, it's the change of the interest rates. If this interest rate didn't move for 9 months or 1 year, it'd be a completely settled economy. So it is disheveling. It is unsettling with these rates moving like they are. It makes us all a little bit uncomfortable. But there are people in the marketplace that just say, look, don't care. They're very low. You saw some of the comments from this morning's show. Don't care. They're still low. That's okay. It's just being unsettling because they're moving. You're renting. It's not affecting you. I'm going for a long lease. Stuff like that.
Yeah. I know I'll probably come back with a different outlook after my lease is finished up and wants to be, it's probably going to go through the roof, but still a while away. So for the time being, interest rates, fine.
It is. And look, I love that view. It's like, I think sometimes people do think too much. They do think too much long term, and it is quite beautiful having that that look, let's just live for today, and we're all good, and we'll sort that out in 12 months' time. That's pretty cool as well.
Oh gosh, see, that's dangerous saying that the day after Melbourne Cup, because that's how people get stuck. They go short term thinking I'm going to earn $500 today, and then down the line.
Yeah. There's a beautiful thing to it though.
No, there is.
All right, now, Pat.
All right.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for watching. And interest rates, once they just level out and do nothing, I think it's going to be everyone's going to be much more settled. Wherever that interest rate lands, it's all about it just stabilising out.
Yeah. Too good. Well, have a lovely day, everyone. Thanks for all the interaction.
Take care.
Easy.
See ya.
See you later.
Bye-bye.